Hi there. So today I'll be taking you through my banking assignment, which I've incorporated with the SQL database. So now let's just launch our VS Code. And to give you some context, so basically, as you know, um, before when we did the bank project, which is basically an interface we created, I guess for a consumer to add a customer, delete a customer, filter through customers, display customer profiles, and then once you find a profile that you want to perform monetary transactions with, you can pay a credit check, process a check, open accounts, delete accounts, view account activity since you have an entire transaction panel. Um, Transfer funds between your checking, pay bills, all of that, all the monetary stuff. And yeah, so we have the account class, which takes care of the credit, checkings, and savings account. And then we have the transaction class, which has all the transactions. And then the main bank class, which runs the logic for the program. And so before, what the issue was that we used to use text files to run it. So all the information was stored in text files. So whenever you run the program, you have to read it from the text files, which is very inefficient. And we kind of hard coded that. But now we have implemented SQL, so now everything's stored in the database, and it's much more easier and better. And there's a lot more functionality with SQL. You can do a lot of stuff. You can filter through it, order through it. So you don't need to use a sorting algorithm. SQL does it for you. You could group by if you use the average function, the count function, or the sum function, and it's very helpful. So now let's just add a connection, localhost, just to show me, just so I can show you the server. And so the database name is bank and integrated. And yeah, so the server should be here in no time. Oh, let me just try this again. Bank integrated unknown. Oh, okay. So the issue over here is that we don't have the server running. I'm guessing. Yeah, it's not running. So we need to have the server actually running on the machine. So when you, I guess, run your program, it can actually connect to the port. So like right now we have different servers, yeah. And so you also need to turn on your browser because you can actually run multiple instances of a SQL server on your device. So like I have a port assigned for the server, 3340. So it will, I guess, run this instance of the server. And now if we try it, it should work because the server is up and running, which means the database is up and running as well. Bang, database integrated. And there we go. This is the server. So now if you just make a new query, I can just show you. Just so you know, we have 4 tables in this. So like the text files, we have a checkings, savings, and credit. So all of those checking, savings, and credit have the, I guess, the balances of the accounts. And then we have a customer and a transaction. So let me show you all of the tables individually. Select from customer. Let me just move this. There we go. Control Shift E. It should be running. They're executing query. And so basically these are all the customers in the database. You have the ID. It's not ordered, it looks like. Oh yeah, it is. So this is I mean the IDs are all jumbled up because I actually deleted and added customers while I was conducting my testing. But when I hand this in, it will be cleared up. So actually, I'll send you a cleared up database backup and like a new one, so you could perform your test cases. So as you know, the first customer is me, and then we have a bunch of customers. So we have the ID, the date, the first name, last name, SIN number, birthday, savings account check, the ID for the savings account, checking account, and credit account. The corresponds to each of the account classes. So we have a separate account table for the savings, checkings, and credit, and this is the bank table, the customer table that has all the information. And now let me just select. So that's the customer table. And if you go to the transactions table, these are all the transactions that the customers performed. So like for all of them. And if you want to find it for a specific customer, I have put a SIN number. Like this transactions are customer, which is this field right here, corresponds to the SIN number of each customer, since each SIN number is unique. So if you just filter through that, all the transactions, you can filter it by the customer. And so here we have the ID, the description, withdrawal, open account, e-transfer, account, opening balance, amount, ending balance, the SIN number of the customer, and the date. And then we just have the classes for the tables for accounts. We have savings accounts. So let me just make all of them so it's easier to see. So as we know, the customer, if it's less than 18, you can only have a savings, but if you're older, you can have savings, credit, and checkings. And you're allowed to open more once you access the drop-down menu. But yeah, and then we have also added some extra functionality, which I'll show later. And so we have the savings, the checks, and the credit from which we're querying through. And if we load here, this is the ID. So you have the ID, the opening balance, and the date. The first one will be the savings account. So some of them have null. So some of them don't have the account open yet. So null means that. And for checkings, there's a bunch of nulls. There's like one account that has the checkings. And for credit, there's one account that has a credit. But for savings, there's multiple accounts to have. So if the null value is present, that means the account is not activated, but it can be if you're older than 18. So this is basically what the database looks like right now. Now, if we go through our bank, this is how it is right now. And if I just show you the classes, then give you a quick walkthrough. The account class, just have the ID and the balance field, and then when you set it up, the balances and all accounts are activated, and then you're returning a balance, you're setting a balance, you're getting the ID, setting the ID. This is when you're withdrawing money and you're depositing money, and then the two-string method. And then the checkings and credit are basically the children classes, so it basically exhibits the same functionality. So checks and savings, no difference at all, just different accounts. And then the only difference is credit, because credit, you can pay back your credit. So that's the only difference there. Then we're overriding the deposit method, because you can deposit money inside the credit class. So the deposit method is basically just paying back your debt. And then that's it. And then the transactions class is basically all the fields and setting getters for the transactions. So we went through the account, checking, credit, savings, transactions, and now we are at the bank. Also, I'm using the Microsoft SQL Server instead of the MySQL Server, and I had to install a few, drivers, because Java needs to be able to have these drivers to be compatible to run its query through SQL. So it's a JDBC driver. So if you just search it up, you should be able to get the JDBC driver. And you should, if you're using Eclipse, you should add it to your class path. And then since I'm using integrated security, because I'm using Windows, it's more secure, you should have your authentication file in your class path as well. So everything works and runs well. And so we as we get back to this, we've imported a few libraries. This Java SQL connection, Java SQL date, which are basically different classes that we imported that we need to use in order for this to work. And then the date and scanner. And so as we go through, this is all the class wide variables, so scanner, the transaction, the savings info, checkings info, credit, customer info, the URL. This URL is important because it's basically the key to connect to the SQL Server. So the JDBC driver is what does all the magic in the backend. And so the JDBC SQL Server is the driver which we use to connect to the localhost server, which is the server name. And the database name is the bank, and integrated security true. Basically, there's no login. It's just Windows security. So you just connect it. And so every time you run a SQL query through Java, you need to use a URL. You need to establish a connection. Once you establish a connection using the URL, then you write a SQL query, which you can execute and get a result set back. And so this is basically the adding customer class. We add the customer. And if we keep on going, we just write. So you're writing the customer inside the database, and then you're writing the transactions in the database, These are just methods we use in the class. Delete customer, just delete the customer, basically. Like there's no, once the customer is deleted, everything's gone. You can retrieve it. And yeah, these are all methods used to delete the customer. And then the search name method is very interesting. So basically we get the name and then select from customer, where customer first name equals question mark and customer last name equals question mark. The question marks are basically placeholders, which we could let it use to set strings for the variables that we're trying to use. So with this, basically using a prepared statement, which is a statement you can embed variables in, and then if you run this query, like it's because variables is not fixed, right? It varies. So you basically can run this and check through the database, and then you get a result set which you loop through, and then you basically, I guess, put your column name. So result that got int ID, and then I'm basically setting it inside my customer class. And so once I search it, it comes to my customer class, and then I can do anything I want with it. And it's the same with the SIN number. And then the write method is basically writing the customer into class. So insert into customer, and these are all the fields for the customer. And these are all the placeholders, and then select from customer row just to make sure that all the customers are added. And so the connect customer over here for the first one is the ID. So I'm just checking to the connect method basically checks to see if there are any customers there. And so since the ID is the primary key, I'm trying to one up it. Otherwise I'll get an error. So like every customer has a unique ID. And then the get date method, which will show the current date that the customer was added. And then the customer first name, last name, SIN. So these are all from the adding customer class. We already have this information, and we're just adding it to the customer class. And then we are adding the ID listings checking credit account, which we add into, so the balances for these three accounts we added to their tables, and then their IDs were embedded in the customer table. So then you can basically query through the balance tables by using the ID that you have that is corresponding to the customer. And so one important thing that's over here is, since the value is null, Java gives you a null pointer exception, right? So then SQL has this SQL struct has float. So if it's null, the value, then you set null in SQL using this. So it's a float value that's null. So SQL remembers that in the memory, like the database, and then otherwise you just use a balance, and we do the same for all the accounts. And then once you're done, you execute the query, close the connection, and then this is SQL exception and unicache, and then this just pinpoints the error that you have. And so the connect one just gives you the ID. So like select top one ID, order by ID descending. So you're basically listing all the, I guess, results that show up once you query through. So you're selecting, like you're showing all the IDs in descending order. So the last ID that shows up, you just want to one up it. So like you have a unique ID for each customer. And then the display method just displays all the customers, select from customer, and then you loops through it and just prints every single thing it sees. The sort name method sorts it by name, so select from customer and just order by name, order by SIN number. That's for SIN. And then write transaction, writes the transaction, insert ID, description, account, opening balance, amount, ending balance, customer date. So it basically writes all the information from the transaction class. So yeah, ID, connect, get description, get account, and then null. So SQL.types float, and it does the same thing. Ending balance, SIN, get date. That's it. And then for the get date method, we use the, I'm not sure because wait, let me just go up and check, because yes, SQL class, because the Java the usual class also has a date method, and so we are using the SQL class right now. So this is the SQL date, and we're basically getting the current date of the system. So our time zone will be Eastern Standard Time, so it just gets the time that corresponds to your system you're using to run the Java program. Otherwise it would be whatever time. So that's very convenient, and then you return the current date. And so basically when I use the get date method to write into SQL, since it's from the SQL class, you don't need to do any casting. And for the check H method, we're using the Java.text class. So if you check up here, this would be the Java.text class, which you're getting the date from. Oh, this is too low. Let me just go a bit higher. Yeah. So we're just getting the day and then see Java the user date, which is a different class. I can import two classes. It doesn't allow me to. So yeah, we create objects and this would check if the customer is like above 18, lower than 18 to the current date. So like, let's say what day is it right now? So it's 21st. So know that the customer is, 18 or not to the current date. So if it's tomorrow, the customer is 18. But if it was today and the customer is born tomorrow, he's not 18. So therefore, you cannot open a checkings or credit account. That's very convenient. And then this is the get balance method. We basically get the balances. Like now we're reading all the transactions. And yeah, pretty basic. And now this you're reading the transactions. So select count. So we're getting the counter to see how many transactions are there for this customer. And since you only need to show 5, right? And so if it's less than 5, right, what we're going to do is basically first we're going to read all these into an array, right? And then we have the max of 5. Now we just select from customer, and so now we're checking if the transaction ID. So basically on the over here, we just know how many transactions are there. And secondly, we know what the transactions are for everybody, and how many transactions are there for yeah. And if you get what I'm saying, and then as we go through, we know the transactions with the customer, how many are there, right? So now we just have to query through the most recent 5. If I just did this from select from transactions, like just select the transactions from like the most recent ones, so like order by ID descending. So it would show the most recent transaction, but it would show the last one first and the first one last. But I want the first one, like the least recent one first and the most recent one last, so it's easier to read. So I had to just query through between the first one and the last one from the array, and then basically have the transactions and output it. That's basically it. And then this is the account class. The account method. The account method basically has all the monetary transactions methods. So the get balance. So you basically like all the monetary work happens there. And yeah, if your account's null, it's not activated. I'll show you demo after. It's basically all of that. It's a big method. Yeah, update basically updates the customer's database after all the transactions have been made. And this explorer method, you can do fun things like ranking clients with their net worth, average money per client, lowest income bracket, most transactions, group consumers by account, all of that. And then sort, the good old bubble sort, average, main, just the main method. And yeah, done. So now if you use program, here we go. It starts. Oh, I would like to show you something. So let's just rerun it. If I change this, the URL, which is basically leading towards a server, if I change to something random, and then so I can add a customer, I can delete I can do it up to an extent. It won't connect to my server. So display, if I click the display method, it will give me an error because it doesn't know, like my server name does not exist, right? Because I'm learning my server on the local host and this does not exist. So now it's going to take a while because it's trying to find the server, but it's not going to work. And here we go. The IP connection to the host has failed because I have another instance of my server running on this name, right? And so the port that this the server that has the bank database has does not correspond to that, so it has failed. So by localhost and I run my program and I try to display all my customers, like I showed you earlier from the database, these are all the customers which I just got from the database by using a SQL query. And so we can do simple things like adding a customer. So if I just add, I don't know a name, Mike Ross, Mike. And so now I have added a functionality. So if I have an existing customer with the SIN number, because SIN numbers cannot be like repeated. So like I know there's 34320736. Customer is already present. You can use it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That's something that's not been used, so I can use it. And then the birthday 1986. Actually, let's try something fun. Let's try. Yeah, but if I try the 21st, then it would put me in the savings, and I want to show you functionality with the checkings and credit. So I'll just put 2002. I'll put today's date 0621, and then yeah, I can choose any account. I'll choose the credit, easier. And then now if I show customers, I have my process as the second one, which I just added right now. So I can sort through last name, first name, first name, SIN number. Mark Zuckerberg is first, Microsoft is second, SIN number. And then if I delete a customer, let's say we want to delete Caden Ruda. I just search it, and I can just use a name or SIN. I put Ruda Caden, and I just click yes. The customer has been deleted successfully. And as we look here, the customer is not here. It's all gone. And if we go to the database, let's select from customer, and I don't think it'll be here either. Just here. Hi. Into the query doesn't seem to run. Let me just refresh that. Let's wait. Yep, there's the query. Let me just move here. Oh, I'm having technical difficulties. Let me just try one more actually. And we move here. And Kaden Mura is not here. He's gone. And so that's the magic of SQL. It's just yeah, it's not just start off every time terminal. Come back to the command prompt. And here we are. So now if we display customers again, these are all the customers. Add, delete. So we've gone through the add method, the delete method, the sortings, and the displacement. We can find customer through last name, first name, or SIN. Right? So we know the last name is Ross Mike. And so since the savings and checkings are null, accounts are not activated, it will show that. And it shows the Ross Mike 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 9 file menu. I can also access this by using my SIN number, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Bam. Right us. And then I can view account activity, which it gave me an error for. Let's check that at update 1047. Oh, did not know that. Wow. So let's close if that was the problem. I did not know that was the issue. Oops. Okay, please. Yep. There we go. Okay, transactions, open account, credit account, blah blah. Deposit. We can deposit in. Okay, let's open a new account. Let's do 8. Let's open a savings. Let's open 4,000. Bam. New activity. Open 4,000. Deposit. Savings 10,000. Video account activity 14,000. Withdraw. Let's withdraw 13,999. 13,999. Account balance 1. We don't process check. Let's open the checkings as well. Checkings. 33 0.0. And process check. So now we have a check with $100. And so now we have $100 in the checkings. Transactions fee for -1. So now in the checkings, we have $1 in our savings, and credit is 0. Process purchase, it'll be 5, and we enter like, let's put 1. Let's put like game at Walmart. Let's add a space there. And how much is purchase? $1. Game at Walmart, $1. That's the credit. Now you have to pay the credit. So if you pay the bill, it's a -$1, and we just use the savings, and savings would be 0, right? Yeah. And so the savings and checkings are both 0, and we have a balance of something on the checkings. I do not remember. So we finish recurring activity: deposit, withdraw, process check, pay bill, transfer funds between your savings and checkings. Checkings is 99. Let's do checkings to savings. Let's give the savings 33. And so now this has 33, and the checking says 66. And now you can open and issue a new card. We did that. Or you can cancel a card account. If you cancel all the cards, the account gets deleted automatically. Or you can just delete the account. Let's cancel a card. And if you have outstanding balance on a credit card, the account won't get deleted. Let's delete the credit account. The account has been deleted. And so delete the account credit. So now if I try to pay bill, if I try to process purchase, it won't work. None of that works. And so as we've gone through this, all the monetary transactions we can do, which we can scale to do more later. And if we go explore, you can basically do all this fun stuff, rank transfer, net worth, average money, lowest income bracket, like find customers that belong in these categories. And yeah, that's fun. Come back here, and that's it. Thanks for using Media Bank, and thanks for watching this. This is basically it. In SQL, we created a database that can basically account for all this information, which we can, I guess, combine with Java and create this program that can manipulate the database, and yeah, it can be used in the future to create good applications. So thanks for watching, and yeah.